old age. And now we have these monstrosities of things coming up and down the street, killing people, that we are afraid to walk across the road, especially getting to my age. And I am sure that everybody in Balmain would like to see these animals and things get off the road.
There was a campaign in Glebe to get rid of a container terminal, which was causing huge trucks going up narrow streets in Balmain. In fact, that last particular action was the first video I ever made. So it was agitprop filmmaking, and I guess the references to that were from the Challenge for Change scheme in Canada in the late 60s, where film and then later video was used to empower people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, or people who in some ways felt they were being marginalised by the powers that be, and wanted a voice. And video actually helped them get their voice across to a wider audience and across to people that mattered, who were politicians, essentially, people who were making the decisions. And the first video I made, it was, I thought, contributed to the residents winning their case against this particular terminal in Mort Bay, container terminal, which was later moved to Botany Bay. And we showed the video to the state minister involved. He was personally invited to Balmain. He went to somebody's house. We presented him the videotape. He looked at it, and then discussions went on from there. But I thought that just this very important personal, if you like, moment of showing this person what the residents were dealing with was, I think, important to the residents winning the case. So this is how we used video in those early days. I call this sort of process video, action video. They weren't necessarily documentaries. They were more like short, if you like, not quite news programs, but certainly programs that were of the street, of the community, and had a particular message that they wanted to impart. So that's how I got into filmmaking. Well, that was all videotaped. That was all made possible by a government scheme. The government set up video access centres in every city, Sydney, Melbourne, and actually encouraged people to come and learn how to use the video porta packs. So porta packs because in fact were not just video cameras. The video cameras were joined by cable to a large recorder. So they were quite bulky and difficult. These days, of course, everything's contained in a small handycam. But back then it was quite an elaborate thing. But they were still portable, although they were still fairly difficult to use. But the beauty about videotape, of course, is that you didn't have to pay for film stock, because the only alternative at the time was making documentaries on film. So we could make our small mini docs on video. And of course, the beauty of that is because we could shoot one day and play it back the next day. And with film, that's possible, but quite difficult. So it was the cost factor, the immediacy factor that really excited me about the possibilities of this new medium. I guess the video access movement as such probably survived 5, 6, 7 years. And its heyday was at the time when there were a lot of political protest, a lot of urban development going on, and the beauty of these videos is that it could immediately reach a wider audience. Mind you, this was also the days before VHS recorders, so we had to actually show these films in hotels, pubs, town halls, people's places, lounge rooms. So, in fact, what we became, we actually became the distributors of the material, not just the makers. So we were out there actually doing and then showing. and then trying to generate the discussion and the debate. And it's something that's all past now, and it's really, we're looking at such a different scenario now, where somebody could make something about a social situation that they wanted to change, and then put it immediately on Facebook and get an audience and get it to go viral. So filmmaking for me was to do with that work, which was very political, community focused. And then I moved into film, and actually my first film, Waterloo, also had a strong community focus to it. It was about the suburb of Waterloo in Sydney, and the residents at that stage were trying to battle the housing authorities about a large redevelopment scheme, which would have meant the whole destruction of the whole suburb and the existing community. And the film became actually a bit more than that. It became very much a film about inner city housing and how hard it is for people to have a secure place to live, or how hard it's been in places like Sydney, where pretty much dominated by the private housing markets. And sort of, it was about post-war reconstruction. Essentially, it put the residents' campaign in a historical context. So that was Waterloo, and then I moved to make films like Chimera Diary of a Strike and other documentaries, which were far less politically motivated and more about the human condition. And the process I used there was 16mm film, I made 7 or 8 films on 16mm. First one, Waterloo, finished in 81, and then the last one I made on film was Bilal in 1995. So that was about a 14-year period, and that was the changeover. And I was one of the last people still using 16mm, I think. Mainly because back then it was so hard to edit on tape, to edit in a non-linear way. And also because, of course, I became familiar with film, and I was used to making long documentaries and getting a sense of when it was important to actually film and not to film, if you like, and still make these films on a low ratio, 25:30:1, which is tiny really. But I was able to somehow make films in an observational style, but still make long-form narratives. And I still do it now, but it's far easier, of course, with working digitally.